Hi everyone, my name's Charlie and I have 100% success rate of winning PIP. That's whether it's claims, mandatory reconsiderations, which is the posh word for appeal, reviews, and I've only done one tribunal, but we won. Okay, so 100% success rate. I also suffer from chronic illness myself. Am I recording? Yeah. I'm great with PIP, crap with technology. Because I suffer from chronic illness, I have a severe form of arthritis, so I'm in varying levels of pain 24/7, and I suffer from chronic fatigue. And when I say chronic fatigue, I mean the type of fatigue where my body can shut down and I can sleep for 36 hours. Like right now, I'm struggling to hold my head up. But this is really important. My channel is getting more and more views, and every day I'm getting emails from people desperate for help, okay? And what is clear is, well, the whole process sucks. I think we can agree it sucks. But what's clear is there's no training. So today, this is critical. This is so important. I would not win PIP claims if I didn't go through this information. It's the behind the scenes PIP scoring points. This is not a secret. The government don't keep it a secret. Admittedly, they don't like promote it. But everything you do has to be about these points. I'm going to go through them with you. I'm going to give you examples. And I am going to be brutally honest with you. By the way, I'm sorry about the background. I'm losing my home. You know, I've lost my job. I'm losing my home. So it's a bit of going through change. So yeah, sorry about that. But I've discovered that actually a couple of things. One, you don't care what I look like. The fact that I've got dirty hair and stuff, you don't care because you understand. Because you wouldn't be watching this if you didn't suffer from chronic illness or if you didn't have a loved one that suffered from chronic illness. So I really am grateful to those of you that just accept me for how I am. And also I've discovered that you don't care what the background's like so long as I'm providing you with value. Hence why we are now recording this guide. This is critical to your success. Critical. You don't need me. You need to use this scoring system. So let's get to it. First of all, this is not mine. This is the DWP's. Yeah, I just googled it and saved it down. Okay, so this isn't my personal one. If anyone wants this, just drop me an email. Email's in the description, and I will send you this. Okay, I'm a bit tired, but I really want to get this recorded. Right. So the first thing, preparing food. I'm also discovering that there are many of you with learning disabilities where black text on a white background is a nightmare, and I think so many people have different colours that work for them that I can't provide for everyone, and also those people with dyslexia. So normally I wouldn't read out what you can see on the screen, but I am going to summarise. So for example, this is really important as well. If you're thinking, I don't get PIP for preparing food because I eat, Charlie, so because I eat, I can't claim it. No, you've got to watch every section of this. If you think, well, I get dressed, so I don't get points for that, please don't think that. If you are in pain, varying levels of pain 24/7, if you suffer from fatigue all the time, and if you have breathing difficulties, I need you to watch every single section. Okay, because I'm going to blow your mind, right? I promise. So preparing food. Do not think just because you're eating that you don't get points for this. That is not the case, right? Where it says can prepare and cook a meal unaided, no points. That's for like able-bodied people, right? That don't blink about cooking. That do not blink about going into the kitchen, standing at the sideboard and pottering around cooking a meal. Like, that's for them, and I'm really happy if you fit into that category. Where it says use an aid or an appliance, some of these, if you don't have the aid but you've adapted and using something similar, you have to make sure you state it. Right, I'm gonna pretty much stick with this company. This is not sponsored. Able World, if you're watching, I do want sponsorship for you because I do think you're a brilliant company. The staff have got great training. They're really good. This is a perch chair. Now, you can get them where they're tilted at angles. I've got one that's a bit tilted. So if you use a perch chair to prepare meals, 2 points. So you can see here that I've just Googled chopping devices. Now, what I have isn't on here. Like, you see that? It's got really good for a handle for if you have got hand pain. I used to use those before my hands got too bad. There's so many things available that could make our lives easier, but I think we're very ignorant, because we sort of, I think when you become chronically ill, for most of us, it sort of happens over time and you just adapt in your normal circumstances. It's not like in our spare time we're looking up disability stuff, because it's not exactly a sexy thing to look at, is it? I've got a chopper thing that was really good for chopping things up, that actually my mum uses now. Be open-minded about that, please. If you could be open-minded about that, have a look. And remember that the whole point of the PIP process and what they really want to do is, if you're struggling at the moment, so say for example someone says, I cannot cook because I cannot stand. PIP will say, could we get you a perch chair? Because when you get PIP, they will link you with occupational health. So if you can be proactive about it, because in the questions it says, what help could you have for this? So you need to, do a bit of research and see what there is. I'll try and do a guide on what I think are good aids, because there is a lot of crap out there. Right, this one is a challenge. So if you can use a microwave, it counts as you being able to cook and you only get 2 points. But please understand, if you're using an aid and able to use a microwave, 4 points. You only need 12 points in daily living, and there is a lot of sections, to get enhanced PIP, okay? It's not that difficult to get PIP once you understand how to communicate it. Now, so for example, PIP see you in your assessment and you're moving your arms like what I am. I'm about to have a drink. I've opened a bottle because my hands are doing pretty good at the moment. They'll be like, oh, she can use a microwave. I can press a button on a microwave. However, I decline as the day goes on. So first thing in the morning, I use a keyboard, which, I could press a button on a microwave. But for me, and I think most people, the big meal that we have is in the late afternoon, when you've finished work, or what used to be work hours. And I am not safe at that time. I decline as the day goes on. Please write that down if that happens to you. Make a note of it. If you decline as the day goes on, it is really important. You will use it throughout your claim. So if you can use microwave, brilliant. If you have any conditions with major dietary needs, stand your ground on it that microwave isn't good enough, because I had no idea how much sugar and fat was in the pre-packaged meals until I started gaining weight, and I was only eating 2 of them a day. And it's they're horrendous. They are not healthy at all. So if you do have special dietary needs, this is not good enough for you. Okay. Needs prompting, 2 points. Now, if you suffer from chronic fatigue, odds are you've probably got someone prompting you. If you haven't, so you will miss meals, you need to say you need prompting. With PIP, it's a bit difficult because the way I had it explained to me when I was first going through the PIP process, I'm going to use the example about zips and buttons. I never wear anything with buttons and zips if I can help it, or if I do, I don't use them because it hurts my hands and I struggle with the coordination. Okay, I'm good at doing this, typing, but when it's gripping things, it hurts. I avoid it. Avoid. It was actually my PIP assessor that said to me, how are you with zips and buttons? And I said, oh no, I'm all right because I don't use them. And she went, what do you mean? And I said, well, I wear clothes that don't have them. Why? Because I can't do it. So she was like, so you can't do it. Why? I was like, because my hands. Because the arthritis. And she was like, right, so you would need an aid. And I'm like, well, no, because I wear clothes that don't need it. And she was like, no, you're not thinking about it right. When you look at your PIP assessment, we chronically ill that are limited by our conditions should be able to do everything we did pre-disability. So, sorry, just manoeuvring the cat. She really sort of made me go, oh, so, okay, if I was to wear clothes, because I used to wear a blouse to work, try and look professional. That really went to pot in the final few years of my employment, and I wasn't that great at looking professional in the first place. I used to be a logistician, transport specialist. If I was going to wear those, I would have to use an aid, so I get points. even though I don't wear them because I don't want to have to use the aid. So for the PIP category, I get points. Does that make sense? We're going to keep going, and I'm going to try and give you examples, and hopefully this makes sense. If you've got any quick questions, just message me below, okay? Right, so on to the prompting. If you will go times without eating, because say for example you're in a situation where you're single, or you're like me and you're extremely single. They don't have a tick box for that yet on forms. Extremely single, that's the category I'm in. If you're in that situation like me and you live alone, normally I live alone, but my mum and I are sharing, there's lots of stuff going on. I've got other vlogs on that. So you don't have anyone to prompt you. So there are times where you literally just won't eat. Or there are times where you're not well enough to do yourself a meal. You literally don't have the energy to go to the kitchen. So you'll lie in bed and eat a couple of packets of biscuits, right? You need prompting, you need assistance, okay? Even if you don't have it, you're in the situation where you need it. So you need to put something in your PIP claim about, I would benefit from prompting, okay? Because I will go without eating. And then you need to explain approximately, on average, how many days a week you won't eat your meals. I do think there's quite a few of us are in the category where we're a tiny bit chunkier in weight than what we would like to be, because of this reason. We'll eat crappy food that makes us feel good whilst we're eating it, not afterwards. It's not good for us. It's easy. Like takeaways. If you'd have told me when I was a teenager that I would get to the point where I was absolutely sick and tired of takeaways, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have thought I could live off them forever. But once you've spent years living off takeaways because you can't cook, it's not a good feeling. Or I think there are many of us that live off brought sandwiches, like packed lunches. I spent years living on packed lunches. I needed help. Eventually I got it, but it's hard to ask for help, isn't it? Really hard. So that prompting, again, isn't that simple, whether you're living alone or not, if you have prompting or not. And if I say to a lot of people when I'm going through this, because I know if someone's suffering from fatigue that they're getting prompted, but the way I word it is, say for example they're in a relationship, they're living together, and I'll be like, does your partner nag you a lot about food? And they'll be like, oh, all the time. We have arguments about it. Yeah, because you suffer from chronic fatigue, and for able-bodied people, they want you to eat properly, but because fatigue is an invisible illness, they can't see that actually you sat there, you're struggling to just sit there. So this is a really important one. So moving on to E, which is worth 4 points, needs supervision or assistance to either prepare or cook a simple meal. I think basically supervision or assistance speaks for itself, doesn't it? So if you literally have someone that's with you when you're cooking the meal, because so many of you are going to relate to this, right? How many times have you forgotten that you're cooking? How many times have you burnt stuff? Have you started a fire? How many times have you cooked something and then forgotten about it? Or started and then had to give up because you've run out of energy or the pain's too high? How many times have you managed to cook something and then you've dropped it? Or you've burnt yourself? So many times. I think, you know what's really dangerous? That it took me many little, when you get the little burns, it took me many little burns before I was like, I cannot use a cooker. Where you're going into the oven and you've got the racks and you're like, and you can see what you're aiming for and you're aiming for it, and then you hit a rack. The amount of times that I tried to cook a pizza, it's not difficult. Pizza in the oven on, don't forget about it. I've forgot about it many times. But then if I managed to get it out without burning myself, brilliant. But the amount of times I'd then go to walk with it and it would just slip off onto the floor. I nearly had it land on a cat one time. Does that happen to you? Do you need help? It's points. This is the only time where I'm going to be saying things like, that's great, because it's points. I do that a lot when I work with people, where I'm like, I'm so happy for you, that's points. I'm really not happy that you're suffering, but I'm really happy because you get points. Cannot prepare and cook food. Now, this one, PIP don't like giving this. They do not like giving this. PIP absolutely do not like agreeing that you can't prepare food. And especially because so many of us have invisible illnesses where we look all right. Like, I don't look sick. When people see me, unless I'm using my Zimmer frame, I just don't look sick. And I understand that it's both a blessing and a curse. It means we don't get discriminated against as would someone, just for example, someone with severe cerebral palsy will get discriminated by a number of people just because of how they look. With invisible illness, people aren't taking a second glance at you. But when you need help, you're not getting it because you don't look sick. So it is a blessing and a curse. So with the not preparing meals, they really don't like to say it. But if you have someone that is preparing your meals 99 times out of 100, stand your ground and say, I do not prepare meals. I am not safe. Whatever the reason is, link it back. If you go on to the other guides that I've got, you can see live examples that I've done for people and won their claims. You definitely need to watch not just this. Yeah, you have to stand your ground, which is why the point system is so important. So when I'm helping someone with PIP, I'm constantly going back to this. When I'm preparing people for assessments, I make notes on this piece of paper, and we practice with my notes against this, where I will say to someone, so when you're preparing food, can you tell me how you do that? And as human beings, we don't like to admit weakness. Of course we don't. It's shit having to admit weakness. So it's not good if you say, sometimes I can't prepare food. Because all PIP will hear is, sometimes I can prepare food. Done. 0 points. You have to be very, very careful in your wording. And the way that I advise people to do that, and that works, is by saying, for example, on average, 3 days a week, I need prompting to prepare a meal, or I simply would not eat. I might have a packet of biscuits, but I would not have a healthy meal. When I do cook, I have to use a perch chair because my fatigue is so bad. I can't stand and cook. On the 3 days a week that I do a meal, I can use a microwave. On the 3 days that I can cook, I will heat food in the microwave. Try and be careful that you don't just say what this says. You have to paint a picture. They have to be able to understand for you what your unique situation is, because although we're in the same situation with pain and fatigue, we all manage it slightly differently. We all have slightly different layouts at home. We all have a slightly different approach to how we do things. You've got to paint the picture so they understand that what you're saying is true.